Hello and happy Thursday and or Friday, depending on when this eventually gets uploaded from my hotel Wi-Fi. Josh here, the On the Wrong Lead, joined as always by Mr. Matt Carlson for another episode of You Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. Unfortunately, you heard just the normal intro music that I composed, way back when we started this thing. We used for our live streams because I'm obviously in the hotel. I don't have my soundboard, don't have all my other gadgets, but I do have a microphone and I have a laptop. And guess what? That's enough to get a podcast recorded. But Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. Maybe this will change the luck around a little bit from the way our picks have been going. We've settled on the right horses, just not together apparently in the past few weeks. So just proof that if you bet them all, you'll probably win. But but yeah, otherwise doing pretty good.
Yeah, last week was a tough one. As usual, our friend Russ, who seems to listen to every single piece of content we put out. So shout out to Russ. And he's like, please tell me you finally played that group ticket. And I'm like, no,
never. Why would we?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get that first leg right, and I get the price home in the last, and that second race was, I think we both kind of saw it was kind of a free square, and it paid, I think I want to say it paid like $420 for $2.
Yeah, somewhere around there. So
yeah, which is usually, I'm usually playing a $2 ticket usually, because I'm not playing a ton of combinations. It usually works out to about like a $24 ticket or something, but yeah, it was just unfortunate that I wasn't able to connect. And Harmony and Blessed, man, that horse it just haunts you.
I even mentioned it, I think, accidentally a couple weeks ago, and that should have been the sign for me to talk it in. Yeah. But I don't know. I still wouldn't have bet it looking back. You draw up a race shape and you think something's going to happen, and that's the problem with betting deep closers or thinking a race is going to melt. Like sometimes it won't, right? I think that's racing everywhere, right? So not unique to Hong Kong by any means.
I'm having nightmares of that Pennsylvania Derby now, where I completely thought that race was going to melt, and just sees the grade, just gets the candy ass trip on the front end and wins. Unfortunately, I think the horse that was my top pick. Oh man, I'm already blanking on the name. It's the 11 horse in that race. Trademark. I can't remember. I'm at work training. I can barely remember what
It's good to have a short memory in this game, man. Yeah. You can't be thinking about the past races; those are gone. You can't bet on them. So. But the unless you're playing slots, and you can bet on former races all the time. But
the West Coast horse that I really liked, I think probably ran the best race, but just had no shot with the pace setup there. But you live and learn. You kind of keep on going. How is sports betting been going for you? Because I know you've been picking that up a little bit more.
Actually, a lot better. And look, I think I'm not going to say that I'm, long-term profitable in sports betting, right? Like I'm playing, kind of my bonuses and just playing some really short, small tickets, right? But I think I've shown a pretty good profit actually ever since the NHL playoffs last year for whatever reason. I've been kind of running a hot streak on that. And I think I was talking to you a lot about it. It's funny because all handicapping for horses seems to focus on, who's the best in the race, right? It's a very like horse-centric handicapping model. And it's that's the way we talk about it. And I think, for obvious reasons, right? It's kind of like, okay, you're capping, 10 to 12 different or 14 different entities that can win a race, right? Whereas sports is very, kind of binary, right? Do you like this or that, right? And you're trying to get the vig on those lines. But sports betting, because of that, the edge is so small that it's very math focused. It's very, edge focused, right? You're looking for things like closing line value and things like, and because it's not a pari-mutuel game, right, that stuff exists. Whereas here, you're kind of looking for the opposite, right? You're looking for value that's going to go the opposite way by the time they go to post, as opposed to sports betting where it's going the other way, right? You want to lock in that value as early as possible. But I do think, it's definitely changed the way I look at things, and not that I haven't been on that path, but I do think it's to see the edges that people talk about, right? Those very small, minuscule, like if you have a 0.5% edge on something, that's astronomical. If you can prove that you have a 0.5% edge, consistently, you can scale that up infinitely, until you get banned from a sports betting perspective, right? But, it's gone well. And I think it's definitely, at least in the short term, shaped the way I'm trying to look at these things. Not that I've always talked about value or haven't talked about value from a horse betting perspective, but I do think it brings into focus kind of the actual like minuscule mathematical edges that you want to have when you're playing these things. And also when you don't have those, I think, there's a separation, right? We do this for fun, right? We do this for enjoyment, but also knowing, hey, when you should really send it and when you should just say, hey, I'm just going to, bet all these races because I'm interested in doing this, right? This is the hobby versus trying to do it for profit. So, yeah, no, I mean, it's been fun. I've taken kind of a new eye to it. And I think I'm a lot better at not betting things in sports because of that too. So.
That was a lot of words just to say, I just bet against the Giants.
I think I scaled up I'm as a Giants fan, right? I think I told you we're going to turn it into a sports betting podcast right now, right? I scaled up the Cowboys massively tonight. I think I scaled up the Cowboys to like minus 13.5, just thinking the Giants are going to get blown out. And I hope I lose that bet. I hope I lose my $10 for that, but maybe I won't. So.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that, at least for now, like, I don't know, with the way horse racing has kind of gone for me the last couple weeks and months, it's been a nice little reprieve, betting on sports. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm in Minnesota, or not Minnesota, I'm in Wisconsin. They don't have online wagering, so I forgot to get my bets in for Thursday, so I'm just going to have to watch this game. But I kind of agree with you. I probably would have moved the line up a little bit, but hey, we'll see what happens. Maybe maybe you're listening to this in the future. I don't know, but we have a pretty interesting pick three here at Sha Tin, and the first race is a 10 horse race, so a small field for Hong Kong standards. We're going to be going 6 furlongs here. And, I looked at this race, I looked at the pace scenario, and I really think that on paper, Awesome Treasure probably gets on the lead and gets it pretty easily. The problem is Awesome Treasure is kind of gone off form, and the last race where he was kind of posted out wide was just dreadful. It wasn't even able to get the lead. I did see there's some noted trouble in that race, but he's dropping back down in class. Unfortunately, that means he's also gaining 20 pounds. He's still kind of got a pretty terrible draw. But I feel like at this class, right, he's got 2 wins. One at Happy Valley, one at Sha Tin. He's won at this distance, one on this trip, right, the C configuration, and he's run pretty well on this configuration. And I think there's just this race is devoid of speed, so I don't think that he is necessarily a. I'm interested to see what price we get, right? He's kind of gotten bet down pretty bad the 3 or 4 times before this last race. So I'm curious to see what price we're going to get. But yeah, I think that pace wise, the horse makes the most sense. Off form a little bit, so I hope you get a little bit of a price, but we'll see. obviously we've talked about this numerous times. I see Zach Pert on a first time starter. In the pick three, I usually have to include. Now I will say that looking at the trials and looking at the way that this horse has kind of been trained up for this race, I'm not sure if this is necessarily the best horse that he's been on, but um, looking through this race, you don't necessarily have a bunch of winners in here. I mean, this is Class 4 racing, so yeah, I think Zach Purton on the first time starter. I mean, I wish I had more in depth, like great analysis for that, but I'm just going to include just based off the fact that Zach's on this horse is drawn well in the three post, and there's just not a lot of talent in this field. And then the two Harold Win, I think, is just the other logical horse in this race. Is coming in pretty decent form, and if the one was drawn a little bit better, maybe I wouldn't use the two so much. But I kind of feel like the two is going to be in that tracking trip and is going to be able to probably get over and save a lot of ground on this trip. So I think the two Herald Win makes a ton of sense. Is kind of sitting that tracking trip if the one just decides to fold, or yeah, the one just decides to fold it up early and just kind of pack it in. So I got the 1 and 4 as A's, and I got the 2 as a B. Where do you land, Matt?
Yeah, I was similar. Although I will say I'm going to toss Awesome Treasure entirely. I just think it's one of those horses that needs everything its way. If you
Mhm.
look, it's one win, which is on your PPs. Actually, it's pretty impressive because it beat King Miles, who is kind of rolling through Class 3. I think is racing in race 10 even later on this card. So that win was impressive, but at the same time, that horse's wins are at lower weight. It's when it's got an ideal draw. And even then, you see when it has those circumstances, it kind of fades. It just is one of those horses that kind of had a case of second-itis. And then, yeah, the last two, you have some pretty decent excuses. I think it was running on soft ground, two back. I think the last time, obviously, Class 3 just might have been too much of an ask. But given the high weight, given the bad draw, given, it's not going to kind of have its own way of everything unless they go super slow up front and it gets an easy lead, which I just don't think happens in Hong Kong all that often at 1,200. I'm willing to toss. I don't think you get the price on this horse that you need, and I just think it's one of those horses that's going to be overbet because people are going to see it on the line that it's going to be lone speed or it could be lone speed, and those tend not to work, right? I think jockeys in Hong Kong are too intelligent to kind of let a horse get away like that sometimes. So I'm tossing it entirely. I did like both the 2 and the 4. I'm going to use both of those as A's. I think Harold Win probably, showed enough last race, given the bad draw, given everything that was up against it. It should win here. I think that's going to be the obvious choice. May even go off favorite. That said, I just gave you and said, hey, I don't like number one because it can't win, and then I'm immediately going to a horse that's going to be favored that hasn't won a race yet. So, I think that's why I'll use Zach. I think on the first time starter as another A, just same exact way as you, right? These I think are value. A lot of times you'll get a decent enough price on the board on that. So those will be my two A's. The one horse that I do like that I think could show something that probably hasn't on paper so much yet is the 10 wind speed. Yeah, okay, a little bit of a cop out of me just going, take the low draw and see what happens. But Mark Noonan's been off to a really hot start as a trainer. I think this horse is a 1,200 horse, and it hasn't tried Sha Tin at 1,200 yet, right? Happy Valley at 1,200 is a little bit of a different animal. If you watch those races at 1,400, it does show pretty well until it kind of hits that 200-meter mark and then just kind of fades out the back because I don't think it wants to go that long. So, hey, first up, the trials looked pretty decent coming into this, showed good interest, kind of in its last few races. Maybe this horse is sitting on one. And I do think, given the field, you'll get a really decent price to find out either way. And so I'll use that one as a B in here in case, in case the horse does show something kind of first up off at layoff in the new season.
All right, let's move on here. Race 9, Sudlong Luck handicap here. We got the 1 turn mile here, 1,600 meters. And I got 2 horses here I'm going to use, but Matt, I'm interested to hear, where did you land?
Yeah, this race was a little bit of a back to the well race for me. I'll start with the one I guess I haven't bet before. I like the 7 Fortunate Son, right? If you watch the race from 2 weeks back, horse hits some traffic in the straight, has to peel off, and once he does, you get some really, really nice acceleration out of that horse. And I think it lost to Sunlight Power, who probably is going to be running group races by the end of this year, I think, just given that effort. So gets a better draw, gets Zach aboard, right? There's a ton to like on this one. Again, it might be one of those horses that gets bet way down. I think it went off at a huge price last time, like 32-1, and maybe those aren't the best value when you're going to get that horse bet down to, I don't even know, a lot less than 32-1. I'll put it that way. But I think the replay was impressive enough to want to use and go with it there. The other two horses are the ones that I think I've already bet this season, both, and will go back to. Obviously, the 4 for Tank, I'll try it again. Class 2 was just too much last time. And last time, I talked about Lone Speed before. I thought that horse would, kind of be able to clear and get wide. And if you watch the replay, Hong Kong jockeys are incredibly smart. They're incredibly intelligent, and they do just enough to force that horse wide from a terrible draw. Right, that horse was having to break across, and I think it was Zach who got just enough speed out of the gate to force that horse to kind of run 3 wide and cut in. Right, expend too much energy. And obviously, this is that could happen again here, but gets a better draw this time. Gets an easier field than in Class 2. Drops back down into Class 3. I think could, easily wire this field, right? And you get a decent price because it hasn't kind of shown that it can finish a race lately. But I do think it's sitting enough on one. My concern is Brittany Wong. She's obviously new here. She's run okay. I think even last week, though, one of my bets, she was on the best horse and kind of ran 3 wide all the way around the field. And her wins have been on the 1,000-meter straights so far. She hasn't won one or shown much running around turns yet. So it could be a poor ride again. I'm not really sure, but we'll find out. But still, I do think Frantank has enough ability to kind of take this out in the field if it runs its race and kind of gets that lead. And then for a B, I'm going to go back again to Pray for Mir. I just think this horse had enough ability last season. I do think it's kind of hitting that 4th or 5th race or so, and I think I'm willing to give it another shot. This is my new horse that I always go back to now. I guess I always have at least I say 1 or 2. Probably it's like 6 or 7 of them. But look, even with the poor showing and no weight adjustment, just hoping it needed that race last time, and hoping that second up this season it'll show a lot better. And again, I think if that's true, you get a good price on horses like that. If you have horses that you kind of had in the quote unquote virtual stable, if you will, that you want to go back to and say, hey, even if it ran poorly, I'm going to give it another shot. Because if you liked it at 5-1, you'll love it at 15. So we'll see what we get here. But
yeah, you picked 2 horses I think I've been on at some point. I mean, Frantank, he's a speed horse, so obviously I've bet him numerous times. I was a little concerned in this race what the pace scenario would be. I think you definitely like the horse, like the 6 has definitely shown some speed. Now, obviously, drawn way outside, but I think the difference is that this is a horse that when he gets the lead tends to win. I think that the jock definitely just knows that, hey, I got to get this horse to the front. So I could definitely see them kind of burning each other out. Fortunate Son, I'm right there with you. I think probably the logical in the spot. You're not getting 34-1. You might not get 4-1. But I thought was the most likely winner. And really the only other horse I was interested in this spot is the 13 Volcanic Spark. And this horse won last out, and obviously that bumped the horse up here. So you're getting this horse coming in, actually losing 14 pounds from the last race. And we talk a lot about these inside draws and how good they are. This horse was drawn in the 11 post last time out and won. And if you kind of look at the other races, he'd been drawn pretty well. And for some reason, just getting drawn, outside, just helped the horse ended up winning. I don't know. So I'm not saying that, hey, because his horse is drawn outside, he's going to win, but I think he's shown that he's able to win from an outside post. He's coming here and moving up in class, but he's dropping a ton of weight, and he's going to have a little bit of pace in front of him. And I didn't get a chance to look at what kind of fractions he closed into last time, but he's getting a little pace to run into, and I like the cutback. Horses run a couple of times at the mile or about a mile, but yeah, I just thought that this horse moving up in class, dropping the weight, and being able to showing the ability to win from that outside draw. I thought he was interesting here at what I think you'll probably get a little bit of a price, just because you do have horses like the 6, and the 6. I mean, heck, even the 2 dropping down in class, and the 7, who I think are going to take a bit of money. So I could definitely see you getting somewhat of a price, especially with this horse coming up coming up in price. So I just have the 7 as an A, and I have the 13 as a lone B.
Yeah, I looked hard at that horse, but I don't know. I thought with the draw and the class jump, it was a lot to ask. So yeah, probably one of those that you play if you were gonna play the Russ group ticket. So
oh, there you go. Right, shout out the Russ group ticket. Race 10, the Uk handicap or UK handicap. I don't know.
We're taking Cantonese lessons. I swear we will. We're gonna.
Yeah. So I can actually read it right. 7 furlongs, 1,400 meters, unicorn distance here. We have the class 3 racing here, and I ended up going 3 wide here. Obviously, the 1 green and white, I think, is kind of in this race as the probably the second best horse, I guess you would say, because I think the 2 King Miles has obviously just been an incredible run of form here. My kind of knock against the 2 King Miles is, he's drawn out way far out now, and he seemed to have been drawing pretty decent. I mean, he's won from the 10 post before, but I don't know. I think maybe the wide draw might be pretty tough here for King Miles, so I kind of left him off my ticket. So I thought the second best horse in here was green and white, and this is a horse that is drawn better than last time, and has run really well. I think when drawn inside. So you lose Zach Pert and you get Hugh Bowman. I don't think it's I guess it's a downgrade, but it's not. You're not going off a cliff here. And you see Zach, he gets aboard the 3 Prestige always. So I'll play that jockey game. Now, he's drawn out in the 13 post, and I just told you I didn't like the 2 horse because he's drawn in the 12 post. So maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but those are kind of the 2 horses I had listed as A's. And then my B is the 7 Oriental Smoke. And I was kind of looking at the speed map for this race, and the speed map, I think, thought that the 8 Not Usual Star could be your leader. And I think they saw that this horse is drawn on the rail and like, all right, he's going to go. And I don't know. I look at the 5 runs on the PPs, and I don't see any speed in this horse. I don't care if he's drawn on the rail or not. And then I look at a horse like the 7 Oriental Smoke, and if you go 3 back when he was also in the 11 post, he was able to clear and ran a really solid second to Karma in that race. So I don't think, with the lack of other like speed in this race, I think the 7 Oriental Smoke has definitely got a chance to clear from that 11 post and at least thrill in this race. Maybe you might be one to use underneath in like a Quinella, or you're using the Quinella with a couple other horses. But I thought the 7 Oriental Smoke is probably your most likely leader. And I, with the race that I think is missing a clear leader, I thought that you kind of you have to have it in your ticket. So I got the 7 Oriental Smoke, and I'm gonna use the 1 and the 3. Where'd you land, Matt?
Yeah, I was like you. I was trying to search for some pace in here, and I just kind of threw it all out because I was like, okay, I have no idea how this race is going to shape up. There's no way I can kind of predict it, and maybe I'll try and pick a few that I think could be closer to lead. But as far as like wiring this race, no clue. I mean, it might be a little bit of a crapshoot. I do think the best horses in here are the 2 King Miles and the 3 Prestige. Always, like you said, I think just purely on ability alone, those are probably your best horses, probably will take the most money. I think I'm going to use them both defensively as Bs and only because of the consolation. Now, granted, probably don't want to use favorites for a consolation B in here, so maybe I end up tossing them, but you kind of see, hey, if you hit one leg in this, that you hit a price, right? It's going to pay no matter what, even if you get heavy favorites hitting. So I do think they're worth using defensively. Just with the bad draws and picking up weight, especially for King Miles, they're not where I want to go from a value perspective. I don't think they're any value at all in here. But again, I do think the best horses, you probably should use them in some way. My eyes went kind of 2 other places. I do think one of the horses I saw that I thought could show a little bit more speed than its last out was the 13 Thriving Brothers. If you look at the last race, and it ran in the last race of the season last year when obviously like Francis Loy was, gunning for the Trader Championship, and it was up against like Patch of Theta and whatnot. And it's lost to some really good horses between Patch of Theta, Ruby Lot. Those are some big deal horses that have, I don't know if they've all moved out of Class 3, but well, Patch of Theta likely has. But yeah, just one of those races where the horse had to take back, and I think it never got inside of 3 wide around the track and was flaring out like 8 wide into the stretch and things like that. Doesn't have a much better draw in the 9 hole. Doesn't lose any weight from that race, but I do think one that showed enough in a really strong field where, again, hey, low weight, I'm always willing to take a chance. And so I just think, if it progresses at all from last year and gets a little bit of a better run into this field at a low weight, it's worth using as an A to me. I think it's probably one of the better values I saw on the card as I was going through it. So, I think that's where I'll try and go primarily from an A perspective. I'll definitely have a win bet on this horse, and I think could show a fair bit into this field at a really big price. The other horse that I like was the 6 Super Goldie. Something I've talked about before. I always try and find relative field strength, especially in turf racing. I think dirt racing is, it's just easier to say, hey, bet the fastest horse, because horses tend to just run as fast as possible in those. But turf racing is a little bit different because you have to gauge pace and how things shape up, etc. And so betting on figs alone is probably never a good idea from a turf race perspective, because you just don't know that those horses ran as fast as they could. I think something, that old concept of class does carry a little bit more in turf racing than it does in dirt. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying this horse finished 4th in that field from last time. 3 of those horses have come back since to win their next race. So to me, that indicates, hey, this was a very competitive horse in a Class 3 field and a very strong Class 3 field. It shapes up to be a winner in Class 3 because it kept company with horses that have won subsequently in Class 3. And so, I just think, again, anytime you can get a price on a horse like that that's come out of a strong field running really well, you have to take it. And so that'll be the other A that I use. So I'll be 6 and 13 as A's. And then, like I said, defensively, I'll use the 2 and the 3 just to kind of round out a ticket in case I am live.
Nice. So I didn't get a chance to make another play on this card. Was there anything else that you looked at?
I looked through the first couple races. I think I'm going to continue going with our streak of betting the worst possible dirt racing in race 1. And hey, part of that is selfishly, right? I do want to watch a race. I bet if I stay up till 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
I'm going to try and, actually take a horse and, bet it real time, right? If I can say, hey, what are my odds live, etc. I'm probably on the chalk in here, though. I kind of like the 5 High Rise Power. I just think, dropping class, that horse showed pretty well running Class 4 on dirt. It should romp in this field in Class 5. I think it's just that much better than the rest of these. I wanted to make a case for Volcanus, the 8, who hasn't run on dirt yet, too. I think always in Class 5, sometimes you end up wanting to bet the horse that hasn't shown it stunk versus all the horses who have shown they stunk. So maybe I'll play a 5-8 Quinella at 1 a.m. and then at 1:05 dejectedly I'll head to bed and see how the rest of my tickets do. But yeah, I'll be the 5 race 1, the 8 to maybe suck up for second in an exacta or Quinella.
So I laugh because of course I also looked. This is the only race I looked at, but I was like, dude, after last week where we both picked the same horse in the first dirt race and gets bet off the board and then doesn't get the lead and then loses to the horse that doesn't get the lead.
That horse went off all of 2-1 after we were like 10-1's a great price. Yeah, that's what I meant by being asleep. So I want to be awake for this one when I tell you that this horse is going to be valuable, or at least warn you that it won't be.
So the horse I did like in this spot was the 6 Diamond Soars, because I think, like you were kind of saying, or actually I don't know if you really mentioned it too much, but there wasn't really a ton of pace in this race. And Diamond Soars is, I think, the case of a horse that they has shown some speed on the turf, but when they put him on the dirt, also showed speed. My question is, I mean, I guess draw doesn't matter as much on the all weather, for the stuff that you've kind of showed me and stuff we've talked about. And he's in the 6th post, so he's not like all going to be drawn all the way out wide. So he should probably be able to clear from there pretty easily. And his first dirt try wasn't that bad. He got bet pretty decently. He got bet to 8-1, and kind of shared the lead. Was kind of shoulder to shoulder with the leader, and just kind of faded there near the end. But second time on the dirt, you get the bug aboard here. You get so you're shedding another 7 pounds here. So I don't know. I thought this might be a horse that you might get a little bit. You might get a little bit of value with the horse kind of being showing some pretty strong, or showing some strong speed on the dirt and the turf. My guess is the 1 is probably going to get bet pretty big, maybe the 7 as well. So this time you're not going to get 2-1 on the horse I kind of like in this race. So I don't like him as much as I liked the horse last week who disappointed, but I thought the 6 Diamond Soars made a little bit of sense here.
There you go. Box him up.
There we go. Well, that's going to do it for us. You can check us out at onthewronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Matt is going to be at Slow and Steady. He'll have all his plays up on Twitter at some point. And I'm at Cherry Drink. And hey, let's hope we're able to turn it around this week and hit on at least one of our tickets. If not the group ticket, hey, we can pat ourselves. Well, I don't like patting myself on the back, because Andrew likes to yell at me that I don't pat myself on the back enough. But
you'd be booing yourself if you had your soundboard. But
I would absolutely be booing myself. But all right, guys, have a good weekend and let's make some money.
Good luck, everybody.